Before the Great Depression hit, America was convinced nothing could go wrong. The economy looked unstoppable, people were getting rich overnight, and confidence was so sky high that nobody even imagined the crash coming. People were so convinced the market could only rise that they lined up to throw their savings into stocks. Banks weren't just allowing people to borrow, they were encouraging it. Anyone who walked through the door could get a loan, no questions asked. It felt easy and harmless, until everyone owed money they couldn't pay back. Soon, prices began slipping. Investors grew nervous, charts turned red, and the unstoppable market suddenly looked fragile for the first time. As panic spread, crowds rushed to banks, desperate to pull out their savings. But many banks were already out of money, and the fear only grew louder. Businesses shut down across the country, and millions suddenly found themselves jobless. For many, there was nothing left to do but stand outside and hope for work. With jobs gone and savings wiped out, families lined up for hours just to get a loaf of bread. For many, survival depended on these desperate lines. Families who lost everything built makeshift shacks from scraps. These shantytowns, called Hoovervilles, became a symbol of how far the country had fallen. Drought and dust storms crushed the Great Plains. Farmers watched their crops die, their soil blow away, and their livelihoods disappear overnight. On the trading floor, panic exploded. Brokers shouted into phones, papers flew everywhere, and the market plunged faster than anyone could react. As debts piled up, families were forced out of their homes. Sheriffs posted foreclosure notices while parents packed what little they had left. With no money for food, thousands relied on soup kitchens. Volunteers served whatever they could, keeping struggling families alive one bowl at a time. As the crisis deepened, government officials froze. Debates dragged on, plans stalled, and Washington seemed unable to stop the collapse. FDR spoke with calm confidence. His promise of bold action gave millions their first real hope that America could climb out of the crisis. As hunger spread, petty crime soared. People stole food just to survive, and police struggled to keep order in collapsing communities. New Deal programs sent millions back to work, building roads, planting forests, and constructing bridges that still stand today. Under new protections, banks reopened. People lined up with cautious hope, finally trusting that their savings were safe again. Across the country, long silent factories rumbled back to life. Workers returned to their stations, pulling levers, turning gears, and restarting the machines that had once powered America's growth. Social Security gave older Americans real security. For many, it was the first time they felt safe after years of hardship. Government aid reached struggling farmers, giving them the support they needed to rebuild their land and finally regain a sense of stability. As recovery slowly spread, towns felt alive again. Families smiled, neighbors talked, and people finally sensed better days were returning. Shops reopened, workers repaired storefronts, and people returned to everyday routines. For the first time in years, stability felt real again. Huge New Deal projects reshaped America. Enormous dams rose from desert canyons, providing jobs, power, and a symbol of national renewal. Even with new jobs and reforms, millions still struggled. Some searched endlessly for work, while small businesses fought simply to survive. Some areas finally showed progress. Cities became busier and farms more productive, offering small but real signs that recovery had begun. New Deal programs built lasting institutions. Schools like this one signaled renewal, giving communities hope and a foundation for future growth. New labor rules reshaped American workplaces. Safer conditions, fairer hours, and clearer protections became standard long after the crisis ended. With steady support returning, families felt safer again. Many finally began rebuilding their lives one small step at a time. As America slowly rebuilt, the world faced a deeper crisis. In many nations, the Depression struck even harder, beginning with Germany. Germany's desperation fueled radical movements. As jobs vanished and democracy weakened, loud extremist voices promised strength, order, and someone to blame. Germany's factories came alive again, but in secrecy. Workers assembled machinery for a new military buildup long before the world noticed. As Germany marched toward rearmament, another path hardened overseas. Japan's stalled economy let the army steer factories and national policy. While Japan's workshops turned to expansion, Europe faced its own reckoning. Britain's banks strained and panic spread to the streets. Britain faced bank runs and soaring unemployment. To stop the panic, it abandoned gold, choosing emergency survival over strict tradition. As Britain cut loose from gold to steady nerves, France waited and paid later, with stalled workshops and lines outside quiet banks. As France struggled to stabilize its banks, the shockwaves of the Depression continued to spread. Across the Atlantic, Canada was beginning to feel its own crisis deepen on the prairies. The New Deal and similar programs around the world helped stabilize banks, support farmers, and create jobs. Slowly, production and trade began to rise again. But the Depression didn't fully end until global wartime demand forced industries to expand at unprecedented speed. Mass hiring, government spending, and nonstop factory work finally erased unemployment and restored economic growth. Across towns and cities, daily life slowly began to return. Shops reopened, people bought goods again, and communities felt the first signs of stability. With shops reopening and steady work returning, people finally felt real relief. Daily routines came back, families could plan again, and the long years of fear slowly gave way to cautious hope. And so, after years of hardship, recovery finally took hold. Families rebuilt their lives, work returned, and hope slowly grew again. The world had changed, but a new era had begun.